Welcome to another episode of Brother Love in the District. Tristan Kunik here, along with Jacob Alvarez. And each week just keeps on getting a little bit better, especially with football season and in swing.
Yeah, so in today's episode, we're obviously going to look into week 2, give us thoughts on how our teams played, and then we're going to give our little previews for week 3, predict how we think our teams are going to do. Then into the NHL, not much going on. There's an injury to Nick Backstrom, and Jack Eichel has just been stripped of his captaincy. So could that mean that he could possibly be gone in the near future? Who knows? And finally wrapping up things in baseball, there's obviously the race towards the playoffs. It's in full force right now, and main talks are about who's making the playoffs and who's going to win the MVP and all the awards. So let's get right into it.
Yes. So, all right, let's start off with the picks that we go through every week. So last week I picked Washington and Philadelphia. And honestly, I don't even think Philadelphia was that bad of a pick, but Philly did lose to the 49ers. So I went 1-1, now making me 3-1 on the season. You picked Washington and San Fran, which honestly, I think you picking San Fran, which is partially because you didn't want to pick the Eagles, because the week before you also picked Atlanta.
Well,
but you went 2-0.
I'm going to pick the Eagles at some point in the year because I think they can win, but I didn't think you had a good enough team to beat San Fran, considering they looked very good against the Lions in the previous week.
The Lions, that's the key, though.
Yeah, I hate Jared Goff so much. I really do.
But yeah, so you want to? I didn't really get to see the Redskins game or the Washington game, and I never even really got to watch the highlights either. But I know Taylor Heineke. I told you he's gonna be leading that team. All right. I'll let you give your in-depth analysis on the game since I'm sure you watched it. But I did see a couple things here and there, so I'll put in my take as we're going. But I'll let you go ahead and go over your.
That was one of the most exciting yet frustrating games to watch I've seen in a while. For me, now that the roles have reversed and kind of think of the team, our defense is kind of unsure, but our offense is actually looking good. Taylor Heineke went 34 for 46 with 336 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. The pick was just a very good play and an unfortunate route by Terry McLaurin. He got caught up with the defenders, so it's understandable. But yeah, he was able to pass 46 times. Terry McLaurin had a great game. 11 receptions, 107 yards for a touchdown. Great game for the offense, but my goodness, what is our defense doing? Our linebackers we looked civilian in coverage in our linebackers. I don't understand it.
Are you finally starting to be humbled by that defense? It's not as good as it looked.
We can still play so much better. I don't understand. We make Daniel Jones look like Michael Vick. Did you see that highlight of that touchdown run he almost had where
I think so. I don't remember.
But it was called back for holding, but Daniel Jones had 9 rushes for 95 yards and a touchdown during the game.
Well, do you remember what he did to the Eagles last year where he had that 80-yard read?
And then he fell within 5.
The most depressing thing about that play wasn't even the fact that he fell. It was the fact that we didn't have a single player on defense that could catch up to Daniel Jones in an 80-yard span.
And Landon Collins, he couldn't catch up to Daniel Jones either. It was that run, it was a play action, but for some reason, Landon Collins decided to jump before waiting to see where the handoff went. He was in perfect position to tackle Daniel Jones, but he got faked out and he could not catch up to Daniel Jones. So I don't think his injury is fully healed, but that our defense at times was nearly impossible to watch because at some points in the game, we had great pressure from our secondary, but at other points, our secondary looked like they didn't know what they're doing. Our linebackers looked absolutely lost. Over the middle, they were getting the ball thrown over their heads consistently through this week and last week. So we might need to do a scheme change. Something may need to happen with the defensive line where they just need to be more consistent.
I was talking to, I went into work on, I want to say it was Friday, either Friday or Saturday. And one of the guys looks at me and he goes, I was thinking yesterday, Daniel Jones was having quite the fantasy game, But then I remembered what person would have Daniel Jones starting in fantasy.
Idiot.
But I mean, overall, Taylor Heineke, the fact that he led you in a 2-minute drive down the field to end up winning the game.
We almost lost it, but because Dustin Hopkins is the worst kicker in the league.
Yeah, but luckily for you, Darius Slayton dropping that wide open touchdown pass helped you a lot. And the guy going off sides helped you a lot. I want to say his name was Dexter Lawrence.
It's something like that. But there was a lot of penalties. I think that's one of the biggest stories of the game. Penalties on both sides of the ball that has left points on the board for each team. It's very frustrating to watch as Washington fan, and I'm sure as a Giants fan, because they could have easily won that game, and we could have easily won that game if we hadn't given up so many penalties. And we are terrible on third downs. We are truly awful.
But I mean, overall, you guys got the win, and you're now tied for first place in the NFC East. How does that make you feel being that the Eagles led last week?
That's gonna change. Yeah. I'm starting to regret drafting the Washington defense in fantasy right now, but yeah.
All right. And then on Sunday, the Eagles had the 49ers at home. And I'm not going to lie, going into that game, I felt so good. They had a full stadium, it was rowdy in there. Everyone was so hyped for the game. And overall, we just didn't capitalize on offense. No receiver on the Eagles had more than 2 receptions. And the Jalen Hurts on one passing play had 91 yards. The rest of the game had 99. So his passing just wasn't crisp. Like I said, no receiver on the offense had more than 2 receptions. The defense is ultimately what kept us in the game, as they held them to 17 points. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the defense has surprised me a lot this season. Granted, Atlanta wasn't the toughest of opponents to play week 1, but I mean, San Fran has a pretty good team in having Deebo Samuel as their number 1 and Brandon Ayuk, who played really well as a rookie last year. And then George Kittle, who absolutely torched us last season. Last season, he went 15 for 15 with, I want to say it was 190 yards and a touchdown, or 170 yards and a touchdown.
Quarterback?
Huh?
Was that when Nick Mullins was under center?
Yes. Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard.
That's bad. That's bad. How is it like the narratives have changed for both of our teams? I thought our defense would keep us in the game. It was the opposite. They were trying to lose us the game, and I thought the Eagles' defense would lose you the game. They kept you in it.
Yeah, I thought this season it was going to be the Eagles' offense having to outscore other teams, but it was overall pretty well. Deebo Samuel kind of torched us. He had 6 receptions for 93 yards. George Kittle remains perfect against the Eagles. He is now 19 for 19 with 190 yards over 2 games. That is insane, going 19 for 19 against any team. That not even some of the greats can do that. That's an insane stat line. But the Eagles lose 2 big players in this game, which is really going to hurt us down the line. Brandon Graham is hurt. He tore his Achilles, so he's out for the season. And that is a giant loss because we now have a gaping hole on at one of the defensive ends.
It's not going to be fixed.
Yeah, because now we're going to have to rotate Ryan Kerrigan in there. Derek Barnett was starting on the other side, but I mean, he can't. You're going to have to throw Josh Sweat in there. He's going to have to play more than he was. And he's had that lingering knee injury since high school or college. So that's this will really put a look at what Josh Sweat got signed for, because he did just get a big deal right before this season. He wasn't a 2 contract type of player when he was getting drafted. They weren't looking at him like that. That's why he was a 4th rounder. But being that he just got his 2nd contract, and they're looking at they're really going to have to get a look at what he can do now in an extended amount of time in a single game, being that Brandon Graham's now out for the rest of the season. And then Brandon Brooks had a pectoral injury. Not exactly sure how long it is, but he did get put on IR. I'm not sure which it was, whether it was long-term or short-term IR, because short-term, he has to miss at least 3 games. and then long term he has to miss at least 6 games. So we will see how that turns out but I like the way that the offensive line looks on the backup side as opposed to what it did last year, because we now have Landon Dickerson, who was a first round talent but dropped to the second round because of his injuries. So we'll see how he plays, but that's going to take a couple weeks to adjust with because of the fact that he was injured for all the offseason.
Yeah, I think the story of that game is how many points your offense left on the board. You should have won that game, to be honest. You really should have.
We should have.
But your offense, it did not play well. I mean, Jalen Hurts, he needs to become a more consistent thrower because, like you said, like your offensive line played good. It's not like he was.
We're in the trenches is where we're the strongest, and they are really keeping us in these games.
Yeah. So, like, and even if there's some penetration, he can just run out of it. I mean,
yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
I like the way he's playing this season is so much better than the way he was last season, because he looks to pass first and then he will get out of the pocket if he needs to. And even when he's getting out of the pocket, you can see his eyes are staying downfield, still looking for that open pass. So he's definitely matured more as a quarterback, and his accuracy is better. Like I said, he had that amazing pass down the sideline to Quez Watkins. He had another really good pass to Jalen Reagor, but it was an illegal touching penalty because I want to say it was Jaquiski Tart who was on him, and he had amazing spatial awareness to know that they were near the sideline and kind of pushed Jalen Reagor out of bounds a little bit so that he had to step out. Otherwise, he was either going to fall off the route completely or stayed straight and get an illegal touching trying to catch it, which he did end up catching it. But like I said, it was a penalty anyway, so it didn't matter in the end. But overall, I think it wasn't a terrible loss. I think we should have. It's not often that you lose at home when the opponent scored 17 points.
Yeah, that's not good. That says you have some work to do.
Nick Sirianni said this. He just didn't call the right play calls. I mean, he was kind of just mixing it up, and he didn't really have any sort of scheme to it. Like, he would throw a deep pass and then the next play he'd run an RPO. So he kind of was just reaching in the bag blind, seeing what he'd pull out. And he didn't really have a scheme to what he wanted to run. Because I think we should have been able to absolutely torch their secondary, because their best corner on the field was Josh Norman. Now, if this was
that's really bad.
If this was 2015, we'd be in some major trouble.
Yeah,
but
Josh Norman
2021
horrible. He stinks.
Yeah,
that man is burnt toast. Like, if that's your best player, you need to be throwing the ball all over the world.
He totally disappeared after Derrick Henry put him into the dirt.
Yeah. Same thing with Earl Thomas. You haven't heard about Earl Thomas.
Oh, yeah, Earl Thomas, too. I forgot about him.
Derrick Henry's the boogeyman of the NFL.
He was using that man to block.
The blocker.
To block his own teammates.
Such a beast.
Yeah, honestly. Mans came through in my fantasy team. Reason I won in both of my pay leagues.
He's the reason I lost in one league, and he's the reason I lost in the other.
You mean won in the other?
Yeah, I had him in another league, and I was facing another league. I lost by 3 points in the fantasy league that we're in because Jared Goff stinks. He wouldn't throw the ball to DeAndre Swift.
Hold on. You mean a quarterback wouldn't throw the ball to the running back who is meant to run the ball, not catch the ball?
He didn't even hand it off to him, but he's the best player on their offense. Like, did you see that?
Him and Hawkins socks.
Yeah. Did you see that one picture where it's that fourth down where DeAndre Swift is wide open in front of, like, for a first down, and he's for some reason threw it into tight coverage to one of his receivers?
No.
I don't like Jared Goff at all. I really don't.
The Lions, I looked at their personnel when they were on the field at one point. Like, they showed their personnel. I hadn't heard a name of a single receiver on their team. Not one.
The receivers suck. And why aren't you throwing the ball to DeAndre Swift, who is undoubtedly their best offensive player, or at least hand it off to him? He had like five rushing attempts. Like,
and for the first half, they were fine running the ball because
They were
they
doing. I
out of the
thought they were
gate
going to win.
swinging. Yeah, so did I. I was looking at the game like, what are the Packers doing?
Are the
Why are the
Packers like
Lions
this bad?
actually playing decent right now? So,
DeAndre Swift had 8 rushing attempts. Come on.
yeah, he
Come
needs to get.
on.
They also have Jamal Williams though, which is kind of where Aaron Jones fell off last season. Is Jamal Williams takes up a lot of snaps too. Aaron Jones had a big game too, though.
And looking at DeAndre Swift's catching attempts, he had 4 receptions for 41 yards, which means he's averaging 10 yards a catch. Why aren't you throwing the ball to him more?
Yeah.
It's not like he wasn't open. Like
Yeah.
I could pretty much point out every single play he was open.
But going into that, let's go on to this week's games. And I think we can both, I think I can take a guess. So the Eagles play Dallas at Dallas. Washington plays the Bills in Buffalo. I think we can both, I can notch down that we're both going to have the Bills and Dallas winning this week, right?
Yep. Definitely winning.
As much as it pains me to say this, because I am an Eagles fan and I can't stand Dallas. I hate Dallas
either, but they're going to whoop you.
My entire body. But I think their offense is just overall better. They're more experienced. They know the way they're playing more. And I think Dallas will be able to win this. I think it'll be a high scoring game. I'm not going to tell people what to do, but if you have any Dallas players in fantasy, I'd start them. Actually, honestly, the way they were playing, the way the Eagles defense has been playing, I don't know about that because our secondary looks really good. So it might not be as high scoring game as we think.
But the Cowboys won last week, not because Dak Prescott played well, because he played okay. He had some good throws, but he didn't throw a touchdown and he threw a pick. I think he threw 1 touchdown actually, but both their running backs had over like 70 something yards with a touchdown. So
yeah,
you better hope you fill that Brandon Graham hole quick, or else they're going to have a good game.
So another quick little fantasy thing here. Tony Pollard has more fantasy points in both games than Ezekiel Elliott does.
Yeah, I just picked up Tony Pollard off the free agency. I just dropped Derek Conner because he sucks, but yeah, and I picked up Henry Ruggs, who's been playing amazing.
Yeah, but so you have the Bills and Dallas winning this week too?
Yeah,
I think I do too. As much as it pains me to say that, I have to go with it because I mean, I think that Dak Prescott and the Dallas receivers just overall have better chemistry and have been with each other longer than the Eagles have. Although I think the Eagles, I think we do have a chance, not a big enough chance for me to pick the Eagles to win. I think we have a chance to still be in the game because of our defense.
Yeah, I think each of our teams have a chance to make these games interesting, but it's a bit more of a long shot to say that they're going to win because like the Bills, they whooped the Dolphins, but they didn't.
But they just lost to the Steelers.
Yeah, they don't look particular good in either game, really. Josh Allen only had like 180 yards in their win, even though it was it was a blowout.
Yeah.
So I think we can make it interesting considering our offense has been pretty much carrying our team, which is strange to say.
Yeah, so, especially since going into this, it is like crazy because going into the season, every week we were saying that the Washington defense needs to carry the Washington offense and that the Eagles offense needed to carry the Eagles defense. And it has just totally been flipped. Although I think the Eagles defense, while they have been carrying them, I think that it was more likely for the Eagles defense to be a little bit better than what I thought the Washington offense would be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I did not have faith in Ryan Fitzpatrick as much as Washington's fans did.
In the first 2 drives, he didn't look that great, but yeah, I guess this is why we're armchair analysts.
Yeah. So I think Dallas will win. Oh wait, I want to look at the over-under on it because I want to say it was really high.
It was really high.
Yeah, the
over-under was 3 for yours game.
No. That's so that we're 3-point underdogs against Dallas, but the over-under, it's how many points they score collectively. The over-under for the Eagles game is 52.5. Yeah,
Why would you choose over? Why would you choose over?
because I mean both defenses are
Yeah, but 52 combined, that's a lot considering your offense didn't look can't say it. You guys didn't look great last week.
yeah.
Neither did the Cowboys for that fact.
The Seattle Minnesota game over under is 55.
Well, as long as Tyler Lockett, who I drafted in fantasy, does good, but why does Russell Wilson always do this? Like in the first half, he always seems to find Lockett, but doesn't throw to him anytime after the second half.
That's why I don't draft Seattle wide receivers, because either DK Metcalf has an amazing game and Tyler Lockett does poorly, or vice versa. And then they just switch off every week.
I know Tyler Lockett got 44 points last week, but he didn't really get the ball after the second half. He had 8 receptions for 178 yards. He barely got the ball in the second half.
Yeah. And then just a little side note. The Eagles game is in Dallas, Washington game in Buffalo, which I think I did mention earlier. Now that I'm saying it again, the one thing that's really going to hurt you guys is Buffalo does not have any good running backs. Devin Singletary is average. He's not great, which means that they're going to have to pass the ball a lot, which means your front seven is really going to be null and void the entire game.
Our secondary.
And
William Jackson has had some good plays. Same with Cam Curl, but other than that, like our secondary has looked dukes. We have not looked good.
Stephon Diggs is gonna route up your entire defense. I don't care who is on him. You can put Chase Young on him. He's still gonna get routed.
You can put Chase Young.
No matter who gets put on Stephon Diggs, he's gonna absolutely break all of their ankles.
This is good and bad because I have Josh Allen in both my fantasy leagues, but I have Washington defense in our league.
Yeah,
but it should be interesting. But did you see the play where Chase Young was keeping up with Saquon Barkley running down the field? He was just a step behind Saquon.
Chase Young is an absolute monster, as much as I hate to say it.
Freak.
Because he also, not only is he on Washington, but he also went to Ohio State. So that's a double whammy for me.
Yeah, like I don't know why you're praising him at this point.
At Ohio State, he would destroy the Eagles or the Penn State.
Eagles.
Yeah. Which, humble little brag, Penn State beat Auburn, number 6 in the nation. You'll love to see it. But yeah, I'm excited for this game. This is probably my most excited game that I'm going to be for up until like late in the season, because we don't have another division game until like week 13. We don't
need like our last 5 games are all division.
Five of our last 6 games are division games. I want to say we have the Giants and then the Jets and then a bye week and then like Washington, Giants, Cowboys, Washington or something like that.
Yeah, it's like ours is strange. Like literally our last games of the season are all division.
Yeah. Which I mean kind of makes it more interesting, because then that's every single game is fighting for a playoff spot, because this division is going to be close because it is so bad.
Yeah, none of the teams you can say are particularly good or set.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. But with that, let's move on over to the NHL, which they did start training camp, so we are getting closer. October 12th, counting down the days, because I am so excited for hockey. I don't know about you with Caps, but
once the season starts, I probably won't be excited, but
I really like the moves that Chuck Fletcher made this offseason, because he's all about having the leaders, and Ryan Ellis, who's a leader, Cam Atkinson's a leader. Both of them had A's on their jerseys in their previous locations. Rasmus Ristolainen, who wants to be an absolute jerk on the ice at all points in time, is coming over. So I'm excited about the team, and I think it's going to be a really fun team to watch. And so I just can't wait for it.
I wish I could say the same thing about the Caps, but we didn't make any moves. We lost Vanacek, and then we traded back for him.
You guys were so silent. And
I have a feeling this isn't going to be a particular fun season for the Caps.
I'm really excited.
I have a bad feeling.
Yeah. Uh, but Jack Eichel got stripped of his captaincy, which you mentioned a little bit earlier. And I think this might be a little sign of Jack Eichel being headed out the door of Buffalo.
It certainly shows that kind of the front office and maybe even the locker room have lost a little faith in him. I think the captains are like chosen by both the coaches and the players. So if Jack Eichel is traded by the trade deadline, that would not surprise me whatsoever. I think he's done in Buffalo. They're the worst. They're the worst franchise in the NHL, period. I don't think anybody is as bad as them.
Are they worse? Could they possibly be the worst franchise in all of sports?
It's very well possible because like
them or the Jets.
But the Jets have won a championship, and like the Buffalo Sabres, they lost in one of the worst ways possible in
the crease.
Final of an
extremely
right? Controversial thing. And I saw a video where they were doing a Legends night. They misspelled some of their players' names like Legends, and they were wearing fake jerseys. I feel bad for the Sabres franchise. It's terrible to be a Buffalo fan.
And I mean, they had such good talent in Rasmus Ristolainen, Rasmus Dahlin, Jack Eichel, and Taylor Hall, and their team.
That team was going to be a playoff team.
I was so scared going into the season. I'm not even going to lie. I was sitting there looking at that team, and I'm just like, they are going to kill the Flyers every single time they play.
And then they sucked.
Yeah, and they were so bad. It is honestly sad, and I feel bad for Buffalo fans.
I do too. And the one nice part about it is like they have really nice jerseys in the black and red ones, but the Buffalo Sabres franchise won't even bring those back. They won't even acknowledge them.
The Sabres used to. I think what they should do for their throwbacks are either bring back those, or even if they don't want to bring back those completely, like you can keep the colorway and bring back the old Sabre, like that was, or the old Buffalo, that was sick.
Something like that. Like their reverse retro is an awesome jersey. I
love their reverse.
I would consider buying that.
Yeah, same.
That's a really nice jersey, but that red and black one, I hope they bring those back.
I want the NFL. The NFL is the only league that doesn't have like fun jerseys like that.
I mean, they finally allowed teams to have alternate logos on the helmets now.
Yeah, alternate helmets altogether, because they used to not allow alternate. So I remember earlier they allowed alternate helmets because the Eagles used to wear the Kelly green back with Mike Vick and LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson in like 2012 with Chip Kelly. They wore the Kelly greens, and those were amazing. But then a little bit later, they didn't allow it, and they weren't allowing it. The only thing they had was the color rush, which, don't get me wrong, I loved some of those. Like the Bengals color rushes are so nice. They are
nice. I like the Raiders, even though it's kind of very simple, but some of them are nice.
The white with the silver, and then same with the Saints, the white with the gold. Oh, that is clean.
But some of them were awful. Like Washington's original one, where it was that gold color. Oh my gosh, that was
the Dolphins looked like traffic cones. The
Jaguars that bad. The Jaguar one's bad.
The Jaguars were bad, and so were the Jets. The Jets were kind of ugly.
Oh yeah, the Jets. I don't.
And then the Eagles. The Eagles ones just look like they're alternate jerseys. Like they didn't do anything. I would have liked to see maybe.
You've already made that jersey.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm really excited for the alternate helmets to come back.
The Bengals need to do a white.
I'm really excited for the alternate helmets to come back. They're going to do what?
I said they need to do a white helmet with the black stripes to go with that. To go with the color rush, that would be sick.
Yeah, like I remember when the Patriots always used to wear that those red jerseys with the helmet with and like I know Washington, like it's going to be very difficult. I know they always did that one where they made the helmet look like it was leather, which were pretty cool, but I hope they bring back that helmet it was yellow, it had the Washington logo, but it had the feather, but instead it was an R inside.
Yeah, I know.
They bring that back, but it's a W instead. Like do something like that.
I want what I don't even have any. I don't even have any. I just want the Kelly greens back for the Eagles, honestly. Like the Kelly green or like the really light green. I don't know if it's considered Kelly green, but it's Kelly green. It's a little bit lighter than what they have, but a little bit darker than the Kelly. So it's like right in the middle there with the white lettering and the black outline, or the white jerseys with the black outline and the green lettering. Just something basic like that. I don't need anything snazzy. I just want something basic like that.
What about those ugly blue and yellow ones?
Oh, the
wearing
Frankfurt Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, that's a disgusting jersey. Those are gross.
You know what other color rush I really like? The Lions ones, the gray ones.
Oh, those weren't bad.
Those I have a Barry Sanders jersey in the gray. But yeah, I really like how the NHL incorporates other jerseys, and so does the MLB with the new City Select jerseys coming out. Those I'm really excited to see what Philadelphia does for theirs.
Big news from the NHL: the Arizona Coyotes have made the Kachina jerseys the best jersey in the NHL. They're full-time home and aways. They made a white one.
They should have.
Really good.
They took a step in the Senators. They took a step just like the Senators, went back to the old logo. The Kachina logo is the best logo in all of sports, in my opinion. I love that logo. It is, I don't know why, because it looks like a 5-year-old drew it, but it's like, it's all different colors and everything, but I don't know. It just looks so nice. Just, I don't know. I think it just gives off like an Arizona vibe altogether.
Yeah, I have a Jeremy Roenick Coyotes jersey where it's the Kachina head.
Flyers legend.
Flyers legend, and it has that bottom. It's basically what they based their reverse retro jersey on. I have the original version of that. Such a nice jersey, especially with the bottom. They have like the desert skyline, which is purple, and then it has cactuses. Such a nice jersey.
And then going into training camp, Kevin Hayes is getting surgery, so he's going to be missing time. He's going to be missing training camp, which is kind of interesting to see how that'll pan out at the beginning of the season, being that he's our second line center and, you know, he's kind of a vital part to the team. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Wade Allison got hurt in the rookie scrimmages. And so they have to see how that works. I think he's just week to week right now. And then Nicholas Backstrom is out rehabbing his hip for the start of training camp.
That's not good for us. That's not good.
It just says the start of training camp, so I don't think it'll be that bad, but
hopefully it doesn't linger.
And he is a big piece of the team. Oh, did you see the NHL added X Factors, the video game?
I did see that. They brought that
like X Factors. Those are just,
I don't know. They're not bad, but I'm kind of to it.
Yeah, I don't really get the game. I don't really like getting the games anymore anyway. I mean, I've come to the point.
I get Madden and FIFA, but NHL I'm terrible at.
Yeah, I love playing NHL. NHL is so fun. I like NHL just because it's so involved, and like it's all about your stick skills and how well you move the puck and everything along there. Like it's harder. Madden, you can throw in a player like someone who has never played before, throw them in and teach them the basics, and they can just run dig routes on you the entire game and beat you. Whereas NHL, you can't just throw someone in, teach them the basics, and they're not going to cream you just by pure luck. Because
cross crease goals.
Okay, but I mean, still, those are stoppable. And that's not
really.
That's not something that you can just pull out every single time. Like that still takes a little bit of timing and everything.
What about the one-handed tuck? That's pretty easy to do. And
that is pretty easy, but that's another thing where the goalie still gets over to it sometimes. So I don't think NHL is entirely super cheap like Madden. It's like Madden. The defense will make no adjustments. You can run the same play on offense every single time, and the defense will make no adjustments.
Because you have to make the adjustment yourself
I just don't think like there's a really clear way of doing that. That's why I don't really like Madden. I like NHL so much better.
I'm not like the NHL games. Like the problem I have with them, it's taken us an entire console generation to get back to NHL 14. NHL 21 is pretty much the same exact thing as NHL 14, just in a different
like layout.
console generation, and they don't really update things. I find NHL, I find it a lot harder in online because you always see somebody either spinning, protecting the puck, going for cross crease goals, which are nearly impossible if you don't stop it before the pass. But yeah.
But this is not a video game critique podcast. Just something that I kind of got taken to. But a couple injuries going into the start of training camp, and there is about 2-3 weeks until the NHL season, which is what we're all excited about because I think the Flyers will be a pretty decent team. Hopefully. I hope for that.
I have no clue how the Caps are going to be. I have a bad feeling, but it could go either way.
So with that, I think we can go on and move on to baseball, which, I mean, we're basically just doing the same dance over and over again.
Yep.
These go on a streak, go on a losing streak, go on a winning streak, go on a losing streak. They're really inconsistent. They are only 3 games back of the Brewers currently, which still isn't in our favor because they're in 3 games back of the Braves, not the Brewers. And the Braves are playing Arizona currently. So we're kind of we're not in a great scenario there, but the Braves have a harder schedule for the rest of the season. Because after the Diamondbacks, they have the Dodgers and the Padres, and then the Phillies, and then the Mets.
Yeah, but Tristan, you're forgetting one very important thing.
What's that?
You're the Phillies. You'll lose to Baltimore.
We won that series. We're playing Pittsburgh now. And I think
you've lost series to Baltimore, the Marlins, and have you lost one to Pittsburgh? I know we did.
Yes, I think we did actually. I think we got swept by Pittsburgh.
We got swept by either Pittsburgh or the Orioles at some point during the season.
I know we got swept by the Diamondbacks.
Oh yeah, that's bad. There's no lower than that. That's the lowest to low.
But we do have Pittsburgh now. We're at a -10 score differential. If I were the Blue Jays, I'd be so. There is only one team that would not make it, or there is only one team that wouldn't be leading the NL East right now from the AL East, and that's the Orioles.
Yeah, the AL wildcard race is so much better than the NL. Like I've kind of stopped paying attention to it because every single one of the teams is like a maximum of 5 games within each other. And they're all playing very hot. Like the Blue Jays are hot. So are the Yankees. So are the Red Sox. So the Mariners are in contention.
Yeah. I would never think that the Mariners were in it. But like AL East, so Tampa already locked in a spot. But they're 94-59. Then Boston is 88-65. Then the Yankees are 86-67. And then Toronto is 85-67.
And then the Mariners are 83-69, and the Athletics are 82-70.
Yeah, like that's
insanely close.
Yeah, it's all within like 4 games of each other.
Yeah. But to be fair, the NL race, it's close as well, but it's only for 1 spot because the Dodgers, you're not getting in.
Yeah, the Dodgers already clinched their playoff spot. They're 14.5 games.
And they're wild. They're probably going to be wild card if the Giants don't lose.
They will be wild card. I think they'll be wild card. And then, but we're 4.5 games back of a wild card spot, 3 games back of the division spot, which honestly, it doesn't matter. Whoever gets in from the NL East is going to get swept. Unless, the Phillies pull off their classic get swept, sweep someone, get swept, sweep someone. So maybe, it just works out in that favor that we sweep someone and then we get swept. So either way, we're not
mediocrity.
Yeah, we could actually end up this season again 81-81.
If you do, I'm gonna laugh because you might have an NL MVP and a Cy Young candidate. Yeah, you're 81-81 in 81. That's sad. That
Bryce Harper looks really good for that MVP race right now.
yeah, if 81 and 81 if with an MVP does not define the Phillies, I don't know what does.
Honestly, Zach Wheeler had 9 strikeouts last night through 6 innings.
But he's kind of fell off as the Cy Young.
Kevin Buehler really stepped up.
Yeah, Walker Buehler, Scherzer has become a candidate now. Same with Corbin Burns.
Scherzer is insane. He's 9-0 in his starts, and he has a .78 ERA.
Max Scherzer is nasty. I'm glad he's doing well for the Dodgers. I hope he wins Cy Young. I just hope they don't win the World Series.
So I'm trying to find this post that I saw from MLB. It was about Bryce Harper since I want to say August. And the one thing I do remember from it was he had a .427 batting average. I'm trying to find it right now, but his stats since the beginning of August just have been insane. But I think he's really taken over the likes of winning NL MVP. Even over
Tatis, because out of nowhere, it seems Tatis has become people are starting to turn against Tatis because there's a clip that went around social media where Manny Machado was basically chewing Tatis out because the story is that Tatis struck out on what was an obvious strike 3 call. So we argued with the ump. He got his manager ejected. And then when he came back into the dugout, Manny Machado was yelling at him saying, "It's not about you." Because for one, they're not in the playoffs. Like they're not in the wild card. And so, yeah, people are starting to not like Tatis, and his defense is not that great either.
He's all about that flashy play.
Yeah, there's many clips of him dropping fly balls. I've seen a few recently.
So is Bryce Harper's last 21 games. This was from 6 days ago, so he's had a couple games since then, but it's still just an insane thing to look at. His last 21 games, .427 batting average, 522 slugging, 960 on base, 10 home runs, 25 RBIs, 21 runs, and a 1.482 on base plus slugging.
Wow.
His stats are just insane lately.
And another weird MVP candidate that kind of came out of nowhere since the All-Star break is Juan Soto.
I saw that.
Absolutely sucks, but he's having an insane season. He's hitting 321, 27 homers, 90 RBIs, 104 runs, but he has 130 walks to 84 strikeouts. That is amazing. He has more walks in his career than he does strikeouts. You don't see that a lot anymore, considering today's game is more about, it's not really about average and walks. It's about swinging as hard as you can and trying to get a home run.
Yeah. It kind of stinks for Juan Soto because he's coming out right as it's starting to heat up. And I mean, Bryce Harper and Fernando Tatis are right in the mix for getting the NL MVP. And Juan Soto, like you said, he's kind of come out of nowhere, but it's also it's kind of little too late. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's kind of I think if out of those three, he'd be the third option at this point. I don't know who's 1 and 2, but it's a very nice season for him. And another nice season that a player in Washington has had is Josh Bell. He started really awful in the opening half of the season, but that's because he had COVID, and he was the best player in spring training. But yeah, he's hitting 254, 27 homers, 85 RBI. So pretty good bounce back season for him, considering he didn't really play well last season.
Did you see that throw that Bryce Harper had last night?
I did not.
It was a bomb.
It was a Bryce Harper throw.
Yeah, it was. It was in mid right field, and Harper threw it on a no hop straight to home plate for JT Realmuto to get the runner out. And I think it was the tying run too. I think it would have been the tying run. So absolute crazy. He has insane arm strength.
Great arm strength. And one thing that I will praise him for is he's definitely improved his defense, because this last year in Washington, his defense was awful. It was truly terrible. And most of the year he was actually a liability.
Yeah. I really think he's been playing well overall, especially since that first season where when he signed with the Phillies and everyone was like, oh, you guys made a terrible mistake. You shouldn't have signed him, blah, 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 blah. Where I think that first season, it was just kind of, he was trying to prove too much, signing a $330 million deal. That's kind of some big shoes to step in. So I think he was trying to prove too much, prove that he was worth that. Because I think he played better after the All-Star break that season than prior to it, because I think he realized, like, okay, I can slow down. I don't need to prove anything. Like, I already got my money and they already know that I can play. I can just chillax for a sec. Not like I already got my money like a pompous way, but just like they know that they trust that I can play, being that they signed me to this kind of money. And then last
He's answered
season,
my big criticism of him.
what?
He's answered my big criticisms of him. I always thought he was garbage on defense and he wasn't really consistent of a hitter, but he's brought up his average a significant amount. His defense is actually pretty good this year.
Yeah, I want to say he's over 300 in his average this season right now.
314.
Wow, that is, I didn't realize he was up to 314, because I know he was hovering around 300 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, 314, that is insane, being that he was at like 230, 240 in his first season. And then last season we had COVID. So, they could never really find consistency in a schedule, being that I know they had to go on a COVID break and then they would have to worry about other teams going on COVID breaks. So they didn't really have a consistent schedule. And so this season has really been his first season where he's had a full season and he hasn't had anything to prove. So he can just kind of play relaxed. So I think that is really helping him in his race for getting an MVP.
Yeah, but going over the AL for the MVP race, I would absolutely hate to be a voter, because you have 4 or 5 genuine contenders. You have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you have Marcus Semien, who's had an insane season. You obviously have Shohei Ohtani. You have Salvador Perez, who has just came out of nowhere and hit the most home runs by a catcher ever.
Yeah, he just broke 40.
Have the nerve to say he's not a top 10 catcher. Are you high? Like, seriously.
He just broke 40.
He has 46.
Oh, maybe he just broke 45 then.
He's tied with Vlad.
How old is he? He looks older. He's 31. So
yeah.
But I think he's gone under the radar because he's on the Royals.
But the Royals won a World Series MVP, which is crazy.
The Royals won a World Series and then vanished. Like, they came out of nowhere, won a World Series, and then just disappeared back into the darkness.
If you would ask the average MLB fan, I don't think they can name you 3 players on that team. I genuinely don't think that.
I didn't even realize that Salvador Perez was on the Royals when they won that.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I couldn't
Eric Hosmer was on that team. I can't even name a pitcher on that.
Eric Hosmer?
I think he was on that team then.
Because now he's on the Padres.
Yeah.
I couldn't even, this is the most attention I've spent watching baseball in my life, and I still couldn't name 3 players on the Royals.
That was one of the strangest World Series, because it was the Mets versus the Royals, and you can't really name a lot of players on either of those teams.
Wasn't there another? Oh, the Cubs. They won a World Series and then disappeared. And the Indians were there too, who really haven't done anything since.
They choked that so hard.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a lot of weird. It's, I don't know, that I think that just makes sports better. The fact that you can't really pick a every year winner, even though in the MLB you usually can, in the NFL you can. That's why I like watching hockey playoffs, because it's different every year. You can't really tell. But I mean, in the MLB, you usually got the Yankees, who haven't been they've been to a World Series since 09, right? They haven't won since 09. Oh, they haven't
been to a World Series since 09. Nothing.
Oh my gosh. I was talking to some of the people at work about that the other day. I didn't realize they hadn't been to one. I thought
They
they've
didn't been to one since 09.
all that money and they still can't win a World Series.
Well, to be fair, I think the year that they genuinely had a shot to do it was both years that the Astros were kind of sketchy in 2016.
Oh yeah. I forgot about
19,
the
there's that whole buzzer thing, which we don't know if it's true. Would they have beaten the Nationals? I think they would have, because that team was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, in 2017, I think that should have been their year, if looking back on it, because Aaron Judge, he should have been the MVP. I still think that over Altuve, but yeah, they haven't been to a World Series since 2009.
I forgot about the whole.
Yeah, don't tear my jersey.
Don't take my jersey up.
Be embarrassed.
You know the
crap like that. And then old field worker out there with a camera, and then Mr. Trash Can Man.
I also saw something where apparently this was towards the beginning of the season when the Dodgers were playing the Padres at some point, and you can see Fernando Tatis is up to bat, and you can see him do that and kind of glance down at the catcher, and Trevor Bauer was so mad because he hit a home run off of him, and Trevor Bauer was pitching like fastball, screwball, fastball, screwball. I don't even remember what the pitch was exactly, but I know he was throwing fastballs in there. And then it was like the fifth or sixth pitch of the at bat, and he threw in a cutter. Hadn't thrown a cutter in the sequence before that. He threw in a cutter, and Fernando Tatis hit a home run off of it. And Trevor Bauer is just like, how in the world, when I'm throwing the same two pitches over and over again, do I throw in a cutter, which you haven't seen yet, and you hit a home run off of it? Which I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Little questionable.
I mean, I'm sure MLB players sneak peeks towards what the pitcher is pitching anyway every time, because
but you have to know what the signs that the catcher is giving means. That's not always a guarantee you're going to understand what that is.
Well, so that's why when runners are on second, it's a little bit more than just this for a sign. And it's like,
yeah, they change it up quite often between games and during series. Like the Nats, they changed up their signs, I'm pretty sure, every game.
Yeah, because you can watch tape.
Yeah,
and
when
see
we played the Astros in the World Series,
you can watch tape, see what's going on. But like second, people who are on second will see the sign and try to hint towards the player at home what it is.
To be fair, you would.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but they have to do it in like a legal way, in like just like stepping one way or another, trying to give them a
looking over the shoulder, then you yell fastball.
It's coming down the middle. It's a curveball.
And then it's a fastball up. You're like, what the hell?
But yeah, I think with that, that's all I have. Is that all you have?
That's all I got.
Actually, I do have one more thing. So going back to the NFL real quick, I forgot to mention this earlier, but with the loss of Brandon Brooks, the Eagles signed a practice squad rookie from the Bills, Jack Anderson, who is a 7th-round pick. And the one reason that I mentioned this was because Jack Anderson from the Bills they really liked his training camp tape, and he could have been a starter with the Bills, but it was one of those players where he was kind of he was a fringe 53-man roster kind of guy, and they didn't really know which way they wanted to go. So they ended up putting him on the practice squad. Eagles picked him up, and now he's on the 53-man because they want to make sure that they don't lose him back to the Bills. So they did bring him to replace Brandon Brooks, which still leaves the Eagles with like 8-9 linemen. The Eagles have a lot of linemen right now, which is good.
A lot.
With the way that they go through linemen, I'm okay with that.
You seem to go through 3 or 4 every year. I can't remember you guys haven't.
Yeah, we have a lot of injuries. But with that, that's all I got. Is that all you have?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, I think with that one, we are going to get out of here for this week, and we will see you guys again next week. So with that, peace out.
See you later.